Hey, what's up, brave ones and great Leos? Welcome to this timeless general reading. I'm proud to announce that I got the first comments ever on one of my YouTube videos. And lucky me, it was of course a hater, leaving 2 separate hater comments, so I couldn't be more thrilled. I decided to reply to both of them with some constructive criticism, optimistically. So, looks to me like maybe I might just be moving up in the world. What do you know? It just happened to be a Pisces reading that got a lot of views. Not a whole lot, but compared to all my other videos, it got a lot of views, and for some reason that drew a hater. It has likes though, and the like ratio is like 83%. So, whatever. Alright. Disclaimer, Leo, I do not draw cards from the top. It's not my style, it feels too hasty. To me, it does not feel as authentic, as genuine. I prefer having a clear message from the cards flying out or from the cards flipping out, or perhaps if a card sticks out quite severely, I'll take the card, but I don't really like drawing cards off the top for clarification. Therefore, I tend to take a lot of time shuffling, especially at the beginning. So if you feel like the reading is going off to a slow start for you, please check the description box down below for timestamps that will fast forward you to whenever the cards drop. I can understand that you might not wish to deal with my talking that is purely for the sake of stalling until I get a card to reveal itself. So here we have one card revealing itself for you. Not my most favorite clarification. I really prefer when the card flips or drops, but that one poked out pretty good, so I'm going to take this for you and see what's up. So you got the interesting, the Moon card. So the standard ideal of the Moon card is illusion. The Moon manages to exist when light is present, and it manages to exist when light is absent. Because of this, it takes on a sort of two-manifold form where, despite its existence, it is not always there. And it can kind of represent, the standard word is illusion, but it can represent the idea that things are not always as they appear. That there's always material underneath the surface, even if it cannot be seen in traditional forms or in atypical forms. Therefore, the Moon is in fact a card that requires a lot of clarity off of the top, whether it is in the upright or in the reverse. So in this instance, I'm going to have to ask Spirit for some clarity on what it is trying to tell you with the Moon. Because while it represents a card of illusion, of course, what exactly is it pointing towards for that illusory nature? Is it trying to suggest that you are illusioned yourself? Is it trying to suggest that there is illusion in your future? Is there illusion to overcome? Are you aware of the illusion, or are you... Whoa. So for some reason the cards did not come together there properly. So, And I do believe in the upright, it tends to signify that you have a clearer understanding of this illusion. It's not as if it's in the reverse where you are... Well, actually that reminds me. One other thing about this card is that it can often represent things not being as you might suspect them to be. So I'm going to just double check here real quick on whether or not I'm correct about that. So a lot of it does in fact have to do with a lack of clarity, even in the upright. It's telling you to So kind of what it's representing is the fact that when the moon has no light on it, you might mistaken the situation for there being no moon at all, and that is just not the case. There is the moon. The moon is still there, whether or not there's enough light shining on it for you to see it. So part of the problem with this card is that if you are trusting the sort of, like, if you're only, I'm kind of falling flat on how to explain this, but if you are taking the situation at face value, yes, by consensus and by sort of traditional notions, there may be no moon because you cannot see the moon. Therefore, while there is quote-unquote no moon there in that instance, relying on the idea that there's no moon there even though you can't see one is incorrect. So that is a huge part of what I'm discussing off the top. But for some clarity, what kind of illusion would it be discussing? And okay, so yeah, after double checking, as I was kind of suspecting, because the moon has that quality of being like because it's representing the opposite of what seems to be, having it in the reverse is a sign that you are overcoming it to a certain extent, that you are not succumbing to the illusion. You understand that the moon is there. You're integrating the fact that the moon is there even when you cannot see it. You have faith in that fact. Whereas here you are not having that faith, and you're instead relying on, like, I'm having a tough time finding the exact way to say that, because all of the cliche ways to say it are like you're relying on yourself, when in fact you need to be relying on something greater, which is faith that the moon is there even when you can't see it. So I believe you're at that point, I think. However, I'm not managing to get anything else for you. It's kind of an interesting card you can get for Leo, for a Leo reading. Whoops, and once again I'm finding myself screwing up my shuffling. So I'm not sure what else, or how else Spirit would like to clarify this. I'm not managing to get anything else to flip out here for you. I keep getting the sun on the bottom of the deck, which is an interesting dynamic with the moon card, for sure. Because shedding light on the moon's illusions can require the sun, and there's like a fourth time I've gotten the sun on the bottom for you, which is, I can't remember, I think that might be Leo energy, the sun card. Strengthen the sun. So let me see if I can shuffle this up here. A little bit of disruption from the shuffling. And here we have one card. So I hope you see that this is authentically not a card that I'm just randomly picking, that the card is being provided as opposed to me just picking a card. So your clarification for the moon, the Queen of Swords. This queen has turned away from her feminine emotional quality and is instead relying on her mental capacities, which is not the most natural function of her natural spiritual notion, so to speak. She is not in her natural feminine rhythm. She's found herself in a more masculine form of criticality. Luckily, this queen is in the upright, so even though she might be a little crasser and a little coarser and a little more critical than your typical woman or typical feminine energy, she is not necessarily bullying with that crassness. She's not necessarily being toxic with that criticality. She has attuned herself to constructively using this mental energy. But the thing about this queen is she's missing an opportunity to use her more natural feminine emotionality and intuition, sort of. Which speaks to the illusion of the moon card, because perhaps she is under the wrong impression that her mentalism and her way with the sword is more powerful for her, when in fact that's not the case. She would find a better rhythm, or not rhythm, she would find a better emotionality, but that's not exactly true either. She would be served better by embracing that emotionality that she's not used to using. So this, essentially what this is saying is this Queen of Swords, whomever this is, though not necessarily toxic, not necessarily being a bully, you know, being mean, stuff like that, which can be typical for her like using that masculine mentalizing capacity. It seems as if there is a call for her to see how that's not serving her. It's not the best thing to serve her. She's not seeing an even better route for herself. So, and once again, I'm not sure if that's you. I'm not sure if that's somebody else. But the idea, and also it's a wind energy, not a fire energy. So, but just because of that fact, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't embody this capacity. It could be that you're embodying this capacity. And perhaps you are a little out of your elements then, in that regard. So, all my other readings today and yesterday were very much about, like, things the individual is doing that aren't necessarily serving them, and often that are not serving them. So in this instance, this is another read that's kind of pointing in that direction for you. So I keep getting a couple things trying to come out here. That was interesting. In that instance, it was the Six of Swords, which... Dang. That's the third time I've screwed up my shuffle in this read. So I had the Six of Swords come out a little bit, and that's sort of signifying that it's kind of a support card for what I was just discussing. That she would be served better by moving on from her typical style. For some reason. So, I'm going to keep on shuffling here. Like I said, if the shuffle talk is getting old or bland for you, feel free to check the description box for a hyperlink to the next drop, but it always feels more powerful to me whenever I get the card given, whenever the card is given to me. I have more confidence that it wasn't just a random choice, that there is more validity behind the option. So I really prefer to have a very, very clear message given to me before I start to try and do some reading. Which I understand, though, that drags the video on, and I understand that can cause viewers to bore out a little bit and leave the video early. But I still feel like at this point it's important to work on that notion. Which is why I added the timestamps to the bottom. So you can sort through to the points where we actually get something that comes out for you. So for instance, in this example, wow. So I am not sure what I'm messing up here. Because maybe these two cards were enough for you. And I got my point across. Usually I don't screw up the shuffling. Oftentimes when the shuffling starts to stick like that, it's kind of a sign that I've shuffled enough. So maybe it's suggesting that you have heard enough, that you've heard what you need to hear. Because it's pretty clear, for me personally, what this combination means. It means that this Queen of Swords needs to at least consider turning away from her critical nature or her mental, like her critical mental nature of the sword, and attempt to try to reconnect with her emotionality. Which is why it'd be interesting if the High Priestess came out here, or the Empress, because those cards are about your intuition. So if those would be interesting clarifiers for this particular instance, but alas, I have not managed to get any other signs besides for these two. And I'm running up on 15 minutes here in the video, so if this doesn't give me anything else pretty soon, I'm probably going to just leave it at that. It's pretty straightforward and to the point video. A bunch of times the Sun card got set on the bottom of the deck, which is sort of a sign of moving beyond it's the light that clarifies the illusion of the moon, the sun. So to a certain extent that was a piece of the puzzle. And then there was also the Six of Swords that slipped out a little bit. That was pointing to the moving on I was discussing. So both of those clarities make some sense. But I'm going to see if I can get anything else from Spirit here. And if I don't, I'm just going to say that's it. It's just a really, really simple Leo reading. Phenomenally simple, all things considered. Alright, Spirit. Let's not keep these Leos waiting. Is there anything else you would like to say? You have one card here that's sticking out pretty good, so let us see what we've got for you here. And we have the Page of Pentacles. Interesting. So, once again, you're not finding any fire in this reading. You have instead found the Page of Pentacles. So that's interesting because while this Queen of Swords is in this mental air sword energy, this Page of Pentacles is handling the feminine earth energy, which is the most earth energy because Mother Nature, Mother Earth, is the progenitor of life on planet Earth. So it's like, and because Mother Nature is a feminine quality, the Earth is the closest, it's the most dense of the feminine qualities over water. It's more attached to like that raw feminine energy than water is, even though water is as well. So that is a strong call to that feminine energy, which is clarifying what I'm discussing. And what's interesting about this is that while this Queen of Swords might be used to this mental swords energy, the idea here is that she's got this, there's this call to take a different approach and embrace her emotional feminine quality and intuition as opposed to the masculine energy of the sword. And somebody that could embolden this within her would be a Page of Pentacles. So some kind of individual who isn't so mentally oriented, some kind of emotional individual who could be an exemplar for emboldening this queen's ability to mess around with her emotional quality and feminine energy in that regard. I'm going to double check the Page of Pentacles here because it is pretty clear for me that the pages are like cards of other people and news, but the specifics between the pages is something I'm still kind of setting in my mind. Okay, so this is a lot about, like, this has a lot more to do with the material aspects of the Pentacles, is what it's pointing at here. So that doesn't exactly mesh with where I was trying to go with this, with the emboldening of the emotional capacity, but because I understand that the cups often are more about the raw feelings. The pentacles are more about what it takes to achieve that material abundance, which most of the time requires other people. So there's a certain amount of needing to be able to I'm not sure here. I'm not sure exactly what this is trying to clarify. Maybe you are searching for a different strategy. And instead of this mental criticality, this Page of Pentacles can sort of... the Page of Pentacles could provide you with a different approach than you're used to. So I'm still feeling a little iffy on this reading, to be completely honest with you, Leo. So I really apologize, because the other reads have been better than this one. Whoops. So there's 2 drops. Let's see what you've got here. You've got the World card in reverse and the 9 of Wands. So the World card is being incapable of crossing the finish line. You're finding yourself, and that's kind of what the 9 of Wands is at the same time. So for some reason here, you have an inability to complete your way out of this illusion, which is very weird, because the Page of Pentacles would be boding more optimism than that. Okay, so interesting enough, another thing about so sort of what it's suggesting here with the Page of Pentacles is that the Page of Pentacles is about it's about creating the journey, or not creating the journey. It is to a certain extent, it's almost got a kind of quality of an ace, or the quality of the knight for some reason. It's a call to get to action, and that through that action you should, in fact, start to work towards your goals, your material goals. It's also about not taking haste. So instead of jumping in, which is sort of what this is about with the sword energy, there is a lot more about laying groundwork with this card. And that groundwork is supposed to be yielding you to success, but you found yourself blocked quite hard with the World in reverse and the 9 of Wands. So once again, I'm just not sure what this is all about here. I understand that the moon could be interfering with this queen's, or not interfering with it, but the moon could be a calling for the queen to take a different approach. And even though this queen has this support, it's not getting where she wants it to. The World in reverse, which ironically does have Leo on it, so I'm not sure if the World Rip has a Leo Taurus representation or not, but this is just not this is not the reading I wanted to see for you, to be honest. I wanted to see a reading that was a lot better, a lot more fiery, a lot more Okay, so one thing that did come to mind here was that perhaps you are getting stuck in the groundwork too much from this page. And because of that, you aren't actually managing to proceed with true action, which is actually something that the sword energy is helpful for. So it's almost like a situation where the queen and the page need to like balance their capacities to reach the finish line, to cross the finish line, to not get stuck in the world reverse, but to actually make the achievement that they planned on. Because the Page of Pentacles is about that. It's about laying those foundations and planning. So maybe the queen is getting stuck in her plans to, like, maybe the queen is overthinking about trying to overcome this illusion, or trying to work her way into her heart and out of her head so much. But it's just not a good sign that you're gonna succeed. That's making me feel a little lame, to be honest with you. I'm just not, like, I'm not satisfied with this reading at all right now. And I'm not getting any shuffles to pop out here for you at all. So I suppose that plus food's ready right now, so maybe I am at the point where I need to just call it. Alright, well, Leo, I'm really sorry if this is all Spirit has for you. Like, it's definitely definitely weird. So what else could this mean? Since it doesn't seem, since I'm not, I would hate to leave it on this note, but I'm not getting anything else here. So the only other thing I can imagine is perhaps the Nine of Wands is depicting the fact that you'll have a snag, but then get over it, but they drop together. So it seems like it's a clear message of stall. You're stalling on something. Not that you're stalling consciously to make it take longer, but despite your effort, you are finding yourself stalled, as opposed to intentionally stalling. It's just weird though, because you're both in the upright, so it's not as if you are, like, you have capable energies here. So I don't understand what's getting stuck in your craw. The moon is trying to signify that there's some kind of illusion in your midst. But I don't know what that illusion is. Especially when you're finding yourself with this support here that kind of balances your energy. You don't have any fire court cards though. These two are arguably fire cards, Leo cards, but I'm just not finding any other clarity here, and I know I'm dragging on, but I'm trying to find something better for you. So if I don't have a timestamp, that means I gave up, and that this Nine of Wands was your last card. So if I don't get anything out soon, I'm just going to have to do the conclusion of this and figure out where we can turn some of these energies around. Essentially, the only thing I am seeing about this is that the Queen needs to try to find her intuitive feminine energy and not rely on her mental energy so much. That is the only thing I can see here that would actually be blocking, that would be generating this blockage for whatever this opportunity is supposed to be. So, Great Spirit, is there anything else here? Dear Leo, this card wanted to come out, and we have the Justice card in the upright. So that's interesting because essentially this is what this is denoting, is that it can represent literal justice in the justice system in your favor, which is good because it's an upright. I've had a couple other reads where it's been reversed. Another thing though is that it is karmic justice turning in your favor. So it's not exactly that you are winning a quote-unquote court case, but it's the fact that karma is playing out in your favor for some kind of action you've done, which is, to a certain degree, a sign that these energies are moving on, and they're unblocking themselves. It's the closest thing you've got to unblocking this illusion. That being said, I still don't see the relevance. Ooh. So in that instance, you have another sword card coming out here. This 5 of Swords in reverse. So this justice in your favor, even though the legality is in your favor, it's still going to stress certain people to leave your side and let you go on your own way. They don't want to, for some reason, you're missing the points for some reason. For some reason you are under the impression that you are correct and that these people can't see the right way forward. You're under the impression that they don't see the proper path forward, but in fact what this card is denoting is they are the ones that are seeing the right path. You are the one under the false impression that the path forward that you see is actually stronger and better. This card in the upright means that you are the one who is seeing the path forward, and these people are not strong enough to stick with you. They just can't stick with you. But when this card is in the reverse, it's quite the opposite. These people are making the correct choice, and you are seeing the wrong path, is basically what this means. These people aren't in the wrong when it's in the reverse, you're in the wrong when it's in the reverse. So you're missing something. And part of what you're missing, part of the reason you're missing it is because you're not intuiting the path forward. You're mentalizing the path forward, which is not what you're being called to do. So even though you might have this great plan showing up for you and you're laying the groundwork and the foundations, you're meeting resistances along the way. And even though you might be able to leverage mental, legal, or procedural methods to gain victory, the consequence is that other people aren't interested in... Other people just don't find this just. They have to take a different route for their well-being, and Spirit's at their back. So that's disappointing. Very disappointing. Great Spirit, is there anything else I can get out of this? Because this clarification is kind of a sign and it's a confirmation that this Queen of Swords is not going to learn her lesson. And even worse is that the Queen of Swords has methods at their disposal to achieve a material victory, like through the legal system, through the mentalized legal system, but is missing something on a greater path. A greater path that she can't intuit because she doesn't utilize her mental properties. But of course, I have to be careful saying that because it's not as if this Queen of Swords is in the reverse. So it's not like she's a. It's not like I'm trying to insinuate that she is toxic, and that this is toxic. It's just that that is a method of attaining victory for her, especially whenever it seems as if the plans have stalled. But there are other people who have trouble standing for whatever consequences this is going to create, even though some of those consequences are in your favor. If it comes at the expense of other people, even though it might be legally true and procedurally true, it's not always everyone's cup of tea to make people go through that. Make people go through this even though the law says it's right. So, kind of interesting about this read is if I pulled the Page of Pentacles out of this read, it is actually quite straightforward. This is pretty straightforward. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So for some reason, I don't know why, this Page of Pentacles, though, got muddled into the mix here, and definitely threw off the beginning of this reading. And I'm still a little confused about why this page is here, and I'm disappointed because this page should have gotten you over these finish lines. This page has the potential to illuminate you to this problem. And not that it's a problem, but they have the ability to help you overcome this vapidity here. So maybe who you would lose is this page. Maybe what you lose is this gift. Because despite the page's best efforts, you had to resort back to these methods. And that just might not vibe with the mage on the emotional level. On the Page of Pentacles' intuitive notion that it's more natural for this page to have because it's a feminine energy. But that also suggests that you might need to lose this page to bust through this. Which, because you're conscientious enough to be in the upright, could work. If you were just toxic, you would never see what this page is here to teach you. And it might actually hurt you. But if the universe can hurt you in that way, maybe that's finally what can jostle your heart open. And sometimes that's why we have to go through these disappointments. Because when we get stuck in our momentum of logic, when you get stuck in that procedural habit of mentalism, and you have turned your heart rhythm off, it's very habituated. Or it becomes habituable, those mental patterns. Whereas if you were resonating differently, you would not be stuck going down the same path every time. You wouldn't get stuck, you wouldn't keep getting stuck and keep having to resort to this kind of thing. So, you just got one more card here. And that card is the Hanged Man. So that almost feeds into exactly what I was just suggesting here, because you got lucky the Hanged Man is in the upright. I had another reading there where it was not in the upright for you. Or not for you, but for a different read. But the Hanged Man is actually confirmation of basically what I was just saying, because through this loss, whatever this loss is in the Five of Swords, whomever you lose, you actually choose to take a step back and really consider why that happened, which goes to what I was saying about you actually being a healthy Queen of Swords, not a toxic Queen of Swords. A toxic Queen of Swords would not retrospect about why this happened. A toxic Queen of Swords would apply it to these people that left her, and would, instead of retrospecting on what to do better, there wouldn't be that retrospection. There would just be toxicity and a lack of refinement of the self. So that seems pretty... that seems like that's basically just confirming what I was suggesting. That you've got some lesson to learn here, unfortunately for you, about how your mental habits can only get you so far. Even though very strangely there are systems in this world that empower that procedural mentalism through the law, and that can give you the go-ahead to take that action because you understand in a mental capacity that it will succeed. But what you're missing is that on a different plane, it is not working. Even though it's legally allowed, even though it's quote-unquote legally fair, that doesn't mean it's right. And even though you think you are validated by this go-ahead of the law as to the morality of your behavior, the universe is insisting otherwise. And as the universe is above and beyond our legal system, you would have wisdom to heed to that notion. And not think that just because you have the law on your side, that any of your actions that fall in line with it are moral or proper or good. They're not good just because they're legal. And I am not the only one who thinks so. I'm not the one who's calling you to a different level of emotionality. But I don't have to call you to it too much, because you are Queen of Swords in the upright. Your mental capacity does have the potential to see this difference. And it's understandable that if you hadn't heard it like this before, that you might feel completely validated in winning through these legal notions. But this is suggesting that you can finally understand through whatever loss this is that isn't true. That isn't the highest quality you can channel through yourself. And I don't know how to pick on the law just right. I think I did okay here, but I'm missing an even better way to say that. Like, it doesn't matter if the law serves you if the cost is tearing other people down. Like, even if you can win in that regard, even if you can succeed in that fashion, that doesn't make it right. And it's not everybody's prerogative to just hurt others because the law says so. Just because the law, a piece of paper somewhere says we can legally, procedurally arrange for their demise for your benefit. And people of this quality, great people of this quality, know why that is actually lacking in greater character. They understand why that's lacking in a even more powerful way to administer justice, which is by using the justice of the universe. Not the limited justice that our basic human mentalisms can devise. So, I think I've made that actually pretty clear now. I'm sorry that that reading... This has gone up to a 46-minute reading. I'm so sorry about how slow that started off, but once I built up some momentum here, I really feel like I managed to get to somewhere with you. So I think I'm going to call the reading for now. The saving grace for you is that you are not a toxic person. You are not a toxic queen. You are simply inhabited in mental patterns that work and are legally arranged to not give you consequence. So there is a sort of fair play that you feel within your mentalism, and that is validated through other people who also aspire and aspirn through the legal system. But despite that mentalism in you, you're here watching a tarot reading. So you are at least sensitive to emotions, perhaps, even if you can't apply them, or you are at least maybe looking for something different, or you are not completely closed off to acting like a toxic mentalist. And because of that, the universe sees potential in you. And it sees a potential in you to do even better, because you haven't fallen into toxicity. But if you cannot discover this for yourself, if you cannot figure out how to jostle your emotions, then the result is going to be separation from others. Others that might even be important for you and for your process. But you can retrospect that. You have the strength inside of you to self-reflect on that. You can learn this lesson. Which means that at the end of the day, even though you might go through some downs, you might just be able to get this lesson from the universe that it wants to give to you. Even if you can't turn it around of your own volition, the universe is coming in here to give you a shove, so to speak, to kind of open your heart up. And if you can do that, you and people like this page can finally complete your cycle. Complete whatever this journey is for you. Whatever success you're trying to reach for. You'll actually be able to move beyond this. So, alright. I think I'm going to leave it there, Leo. Sorry there wasn't much more fire energy in this read for you, but this wound up being interesting in the end, even though it took me a while to get there. So thanks if you actually managed to listen to all of this, and make sure you check the timestamps next time if you want to see what else is going on here. But I feel like I've gotten to the point, so I'm gonna call this reading for now, and I hope that I wish you luck on this lesson that the universe has for you. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one.